So now we can move on to the question of new gTLDs, and Chris is ready for with the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm delighted to be here and see so many friendly faces and enjoy really a wonderful part of the world where I learn a lot about my job, and I'm really inspired by all the work that you do every day. I'm Chris Mondini. I work for ICANN. I'm the Managing Director for Europe, and I'm based in Brussels. I am American originally, of course. I still am American. But I've worked for ICANN for 14 years in 4 different offices. So I started in what used to be the Silicon Valley office, which no longer exists. And now, many years later, I'm here. And I joined ICANN right around the time of the so-called last round of gTLD expansion. So I do have some insights on comparing how it worked that time and how it's working this time. I'm also always very conscious that there are many people here that are deeply involved in ICANN policymaking and deeply knowledgeable about these programs. And so if anybody wants to chime in or clarify something or even answer a question that I can't answer, it does happen. So please, if it can be a conversation, I'll be delighted. I'm going to just try to give a status report on where the program is and some features of the current program. And if we have time, or if you'd like to ask questions that relate more to you and your needs and your interests, please do let me know. So I always like to remind all my audiences about ICANN and really the impetus behind such a program. So I'll talk about our mission, talk about aspects of the current program, 2 sub-programs that are designed to make it work better and be more inclusive, the Applicant Support Program and the Registry Service Provider Evaluation Program. And then just go through the timeline. I had somebody last night tell me, well, the most important thing you can say about the new gTLD program is it's on track. So I can start out with that. It's on track. Everything's going according to the timeline, and then give some links where you can follow the progress. So, as I said, it's kind of hard for me to think. I've been with ICANN for 14 years, which is the majority of its time in existence, since 1998. And I came to it from a career in diplomacy, and then a career as a tech consultant in Silicon Valley, and I really feel like I've married my interest in doing some good in the world and doing something that's public service with tech regulatory knowledge and all of that stuff. And so we have this model. All of you are stakeholders, most of you are participating in some way, and as you know, we meet in a very prominent way 3 times a year, and the next meeting is also in my region, the Europe region, in Dublin at the end of this month. This program is the result of many years of policymaking that some of you participated in, and a lot of hard work. So, you know, we branded it as Next Round, which probably wasn't so great for the external audiences. I spend a lot of time going out to totally new audiences, tech conferences, people that don't think about the DNS, people that don't think about how important it is necessarily to their business or their enterprise or their organization or community. And they're like, why do you call it Next Round? Well, that's because I have to explain that in 2012 there was this expansion, and there were many more categories of TLD that came into the root. And importantly, IDNs, internationalized domain names, are also a big innovation. And I told the story of how when I joined ICANN, it was just at the beginning of this last round, and I printed out the applicant guidebook in 2012, and I was sent on a 36-country roadshow, 36, with the then CEO, to explain what's a gTLD and why you might be interested. I did not know when I joined ICANN. I came from a tech consulting background, but I didn't know. And when somebody explained to me about this program, I thought, well, that sounds really complicated. Why? I didn't understand the why. And I will say that internationalized domain names were a big influence in convincing me of the interest. So when I got to places on the roadshow like the Middle East and Gulf nations and India and China and Japan, and I saw that they were very interested in this aspect of the program, that was also a big influence in my understanding its benefits. And if you think about the internationalized domain names in different scripts and the efforts to make them acceptable in all the software and platforms that we use, and you think about the hundreds of thousands of volunteer hours in about 45 different countries and about 10,000 volunteers that are making those work, to me it's also quite inspiring about the model. And along the way, those other groups, the communities, the nonprofits, the businesses, the municipalities, they also told the stories of their interest in the program. So next round, as we're calling it, these are some of the uses. As I said, we're seeing, I'm coordinating the global outreach effort. So I'm part of the stakeholder engagement team where we talk to both people within our community already and try to attract more people to the community. And when we have a big campaign like universal acceptance or explaining the registration data research system or anything new that ICANN rolls out like this, we're the team that goes out to tell the world. And I really do feel like sometimes it's like we're given the task of go tell the world what a gTLD is and go ask them if they would be interested. And I was like, okay, we'll do that. We're a team of about 28 people. So these are some of the ways that people are using them, and these are some of the justifications that people use internally when they're talking about applying for them. And I will say that in the feedback we get, again, from around the world and my colleagues in the different regions, that I expect that there will be an application in each of these categories. So communities, IDNs, geographical name, TLDs, there is interest. And again, these are just some of the, whether you're a business or you have a brand, or you want to control your registry policies, you want to identify yourself with a location, these are all ways people are using them. So of course the other part of what I explained to these new audiences is that it's not an easy thing, and it's a lot of responsibility to operate a registry. So it's, you know, many corporates, for example, think, oh, I write the check, I give it to you, and you give me my gTLD, and I hand it to my ID department, and they run it. It's, you know, what you're really doing is you're agreeing to operate a part of the global internet infrastructure, and what you really need to do is demonstrate that you can be vetted, that you're responsible technically, that you're robust financially, and so forth. So you're operating a piece of global internet infrastructure, and so even the timeline of what happens after the payment of your application fee is all designed to make that vetting happen. So these are some of the responsibilities for a registry operator, and the program is designed on what's called a cost recovery basis. What that means is, because ICANN is a nonprofit organization, it's not set up to, as a business, it's set up to recover what the investment is in setting up the program. And so through very complex modeling, the recovered cost to cover the application processing is just north of 220 thousand US dollars to apply. And again, this is something for the new audiences. You know, they look at that and they think, okay, wow, that's more than I thought. Why so much? And then there's an explanation that you're also investing in equipment and personnel and registry fees that are ongoing and so forth. So the ongoing financial and technical obligations are something that, again, having been around the world in 2012, it's much clearer in all the communications now. And so what we don't want is a lot of applications from unqualified people or and the security, stability, and resilience of the DNS is paramount in our mission. So we don't want to attract new registries that aren't able to do what many of you do so well. Again, and you know very well if you're in this business what the registry operators are required to do. So there are really two aspects of this round which are meant to get some efficiency gains, and one of them relates to an applicant support program. This program existed in the last round as well. It was very underutilized. It had very few applicants, and only one, and I think there were 3 applicants, of whom 1 qualified. The idea being that the ICANN community that developed the policy really wanted the more diversity also geographically and in terms of the kinds of organizations that were involved. And so they wanted the program to offer financial and advice support to qualified applicants. And so this time around, all of this developing of whether there is a cohort of applicant support eligible entities is happening now, and the application is open now and will be closing in just over a month. So the policy that was developed identified these kind of organizations as being eligible for support. So the nonprofits, the charities, the NGOs, non-governmental organizations, also intergovernmental organizations, indigenous and tribal peoples organizations, and also micro-enterprises or social enterprises in developing economies. And so if you are one of these categories, you can apply now in 2025 up until November 19th to see if you will qualify for the support before the application window for gTLDs opens, which is in April 2026. So I'll show the timeline in just a moment. So these are the categories that can apply, and what they get is a reduction in that evaluation fee, initially ongoing reductions in some of their registry operator fees, but most importantly, and this is really what is kind of, I think, allowed us to connect with the cohort of applicants for support is expertise. So many of you maybe have already signed up to be a pro bono advisor to help organizations understand what they need to do to get ready. The last numbers I had seen was there were around, and now I don't remember what they were. We had a lot of initiated applications in our application platform system, but now it's about between 50 and 60 that we see are active, that the organizations are continuing to fill out the application form and are engaging with some of these experts to get advice on the application. And so at least, around, say, 50 are going through the pipeline. They've got the application initiated, and I will say they represent every region of the world, so there is geographic distribution. The other enhancement this time around, for those of you that were involved in all of the registry testing last time around, is that this registry service provider program is also running now. So if you're a back-end registry service provider to a gTLD, you have already got your application in to do it for the next round of gTLDs, and the testing is going on now. And similarly, there's good geographic distribution. There's a very healthy number of registry service providers who have applied and are currently going through the testing. And as we'll see on the timeline, the enhancement is that all of that testing and all of those pre-approved registry service providers will be made public at the end of this year, 2025. So if a gTLD applicant wants to contract with one of them and make the application together in 2026, they can do so. They may also wait until 2026 and apply alongside the identified registry service provider that they've chosen. But again, doing all of the testing as much in advance, doing it all once rather than repeatedly is meant to realize some efficiencies. And again, it's part of assuring the security, stability, and resilience of these new TLDs, that they'll be backed by vetted technical operators. And again, these are, this is what I've just said. They're being pre-vetted, they're being pre-tested, and the list will become available at the end of this calendar year. So this is the timeline where I say everything is on track. So a couple of things. I actually have another version of this timeline. But I mentioned the applicant support program. The window to initiate an application closes the 19th of November. And all of those should be completed by the end of the year, essentially December. And so those that end up qualifying for support will go into this application submission knowing that they're a qualified ASP applicant. The all-important applicant guidebook that so many of you helped to develop and have participated in public comments on is now in its final iteration to be published and approved very soon. We have said by the end of the year. I think it will be in advance of that. And that, again, I printed it out again, I'll confess, because I was curious to see how it compared with the last one. It's a little bigger, but it's mostly appendices. So it's about 400 pages, of which half are appendices. So I wave it around on my Zoom calls just to make a point about how complex it is. Also, as I mentioned, it's not on the timeline, but in December, there will be a list of the published, vetted, and approved registry service providers. And then that is to allow people, and the guidebook will be translated into the ICANN languages, and that's to allow people to get ready before their application window opens in April. The last time I gave this presentation, someone said to me, oh, it's very important that you explain what happens after this. And again, I have a couple slides in here, I think, about the journey. But this is another important aspect, as I mentioned earlier, to help people understand that there's a process to be approved and there's a process for the community and others to weigh in. So these are some of the key chapters or modules, as they're called, in the applicant guidebook. Sometimes I have to go back and give presentations to groups that have already heard this part, and now they want to know all of these details of what's in here. And I usually have to bring somebody who's worked on the drafting of the guidebook. But these are what they're most interested in. So if you go to Module 1 in the guidebook, there's a very complex diagram that shows all the steps after your application to get through. People are very interested in the fees. So in addition to that application fee, there's information on refunds that you're qualified for if you pull out at a certain moment of the application process, if you withdraw, or if there are external circumstances that stop your application. Another thing that people find interesting is that the fees, since they're designed on a cost recovery basis, if there's a great affluence of applications, there is a chance that those fees will come down because more applications mean more application fees, meaning less per applicant. And that's something that people pay a lot of attention to on the business side. Module 3 is about all of the ways that the public, parts of our community, the Governmental Advisory Committee, and others can put in advice, appeals, and objections. Of course, true to ICANN fashion, we tried to anticipate every eventuality. We had a lot more data because we did this in 2012, but trying to sort out contention sets, multiple applications for the same string, has a great number of detailed procedures that are going to be followed. And there is a community priority evaluation. So again, as in 2012, if you qualify as a community you're meant to get some, let's say, assistance relative to maybe a big, well-funded corporate in that situation where you're in a contention against them. The geographic names are also very, very, I get a lot of questions and we get a lot of inquiries on this aspect of the applicant guidebook. And then there are public interest and voluntary commitments, which some people who want to operate registries say, we want to have these rules and make them known and available to the people that we will be serving. These are just a list of the different ways that the community can provide input. Again, these go into great detail of the applicant guidebook. We're spending some time at the ICANN meetings informing and advising the Governmental Advisory Committee on their important role of providing advice and assuring that they're connected back with their capitals and they know that this is happening. So we want to have a no surprises approach when it comes to governments. These are all the various, these slides, I'm very happy to make them available to you. We made a champions toolkit if anybody wanted to go out and give a presentation about the next round. It's also translated into languages beyond the ICANN languages. There have been a few interesting innovations that will be beneficial to the ICANN community that arose just from this program, and that is one of them. And I'm on a little bit of a roadshow giving this talk in front of many, many different audiences, and hoping that people feel prepared for the next round. And if you want to see me on stage again, I have the ceremonial joy of welcoming people to Dublin. I think I've seen the agenda for the opening ceremony, and it's like 2 minutes for this person, 2 minutes for this person. So I will literally be standing up and saying, here's the next speaker, but come see me, say here's the next speaker. It's a great joy to welcome all of you if you come to an ICANN meeting. And Dublin, we went to Dublin 10 years ago, and it was quite a successful meeting. It's a really, really lovely city and venue, very welcoming culture. And given the timing of this program, it should be a lot of lively discussion. And so please email me with direct questions or follow us, and I'm here through the afternoon to spend time with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I will take this. And ICANN is, of course, do we have time? Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah. I was ahead of time. There is a question in the back.
Hi, thank you for presentation. One question regarding when bidding or auctioning. So if there is multiple parties interested for specific TLD, which is not, let's say, community application, how the bidding would work, who would get the chance to manage the specific TLD, especially if there is a lot of interest. And we heard all the stories from last round, some of them cost 40 million and stuff like that, so,
It's a very good, direct, and simple question with a very long and complex answer. But the module on the contention sets explains that one of it tries to implement a real desire from the community to avoid those kind of private auctions or private, let's say, deals or gaming of the system. One of the innovations was to implement a second choice string that you can submit with an application if you're an applicant. And when strings are made public, you have an opportunity to switch your string. And then there are many, I would say, inhibitions to private deal making. In fact, they're really restricted. And so there is still the potential of an auction, an ICANN run auction, but it is at an ultimately very last resort. So that's my very simplified answer to a very complex part of the guidebook. But the community wants us to avoid some of what you were referring to, what we heard about in the last round.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for this presentation. I pretend that I don't know the answer for your question. And when I may apply .est.
.est.
Est.
Okay, so this is the life of an ICANN engagement person. You get a simple, direct question that has a very long and complex answer. So there is a section on reserved and blocked and, let's say, forbidden names. And it's a very complex undertaking. And in the applicant guidebook, you'll see that the community developed the policy in a way that prohibits some of the three-letter prohibits all of them. So, and again, I can't really give you an editorial opinion on the policy-making process, but I do see it as one instance where there was an opportunity for that geographical participation from around the world that was precluded by the decisions to not allow these three-letter geographical identities to be applied for. So, and it happens even though that even like companies that may want to apply for their company initials, and they look on this geographic list and they see that it's a EST or another three-letter code, that they're unable to apply. The geographical codes are all from the International Standards Organization, and those are at least we can refer to those lists, but the ones that were allowed and not allowed were determined by the community, and so that's a precluded application.
If est ever comes to life, then I will just buy a dictionary and register every word in English with the biggest, largest, smallest, and in the end, the best, b.est.
A great business idea.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being the supporter of this event.
Thank you very much. Thank you.